This weekend, in what may be the largest coordinated drone attack or most consequential coordinated drone attack ever, Ukraine basically over 18 months, they coordinated this thing with truck drivers and a warehouse deep inside of Russia. We're talking 4,000 kilometers away from Ukraine, which is a lot, even in American speak. And they assembled these drones and then rented these trucks, and the drivers allegedly had no idea. And then the trucks took off. The drones then launched from the trucks with these little fiber optic cables, so not jammable, and took out a big chunk of Russia's bomber fleet. And
like 30%, 40%. I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think the total was 40 aircraft affected, possibly including an A-50, which I think that was one of their last ones. I mean, they were down to 3 or 4.
They're not making some of those bombers either, so it's not like they're going to replace them.
Tu-95, they're not going to make again. So that's their nuclear triad, right? That's one of the things. And there was a rumor, and I don't know if this was confirmed or not, that they had attacked the sub base as well. So it was 4 different airfields and then possibly the sub base. Doug, you have some of that? Yeah, so here you go.
Something close to an FSB base as well, FSB headquarters.
I think the FSB, that's where they built them, in the warehouse. So look at this, dude. Straight out of a Tom Clancy novel. These quadcopter drones.
I'm going to kill the sound because it might
Yeah, it's just a guy yelling bad things in Russian.
Play
it.
Yeah, just go ahead and say it, Mover. That'll.
Well, Americans don't know what that means.
Hold on, let me ask.
Borscht.
Yeah, see, we don't know what it means.
How about that?
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Dude, that's the little containers they were in. I mean,
yeah, that's inside the trucks.
Shipping containers inside trucks with the drones. And so the best part, somebody was asking, they're like, hey, why are they telling us what Operation Spiderweb was and, how they did it? Well, because now shipping in Russia has come to a gridlock because they think every truck is a possible drone carrier. And so the, 9/11 style effects where we, overreact after a major surprise attack, second and third order effects. And it's something that is going to change warfare substantially for a long time. This is, the analogy being, not in the sense that, because people got mad at me when I said this, but it's their 9/11 or Pearl Harbor, in the sense that this was a new tactic, unconventional surprise attack that changed the face of what happened next, changed the face of the war, changed the face of how the conflict persisted. And they were caught flat-footed. They didn't know about it. They didn't have any warning about it. Even the Americans and Western allies allegedly didn't know about it, although I think Lindsey Graham was over there.
Can you blame him?
Yeah. But Doug, you got the actual video? There it is. And these drones, so they're FPV drones. They were targeting specific spots on these bombers. Like they've got tires on that one. They were targeting specific spots on the bombers, the weakest points, and like parts with fuel cells, parts that even if they had only partially destroyed them, would take forever. And I think, I don't remember if this video or another one, they were actually going into hangars too. So like open hangar door, they could still get in, which now begs the question, and I turn this over to the discussion, gentlemen. How in trouble are we? In the sense
Horrible
that
trouble.
we've been talking about this as a threat. Gonky and I had that conversation prior, and they said, hey, keep banging the drum there, because that's definitely something that is a concern. But now we've seen it in action, and we know China's bought a whole bunch of farmland around our military bases, and they are very prolific in drone manufacturing and development. Terrorist organizations have used drones. I mean, we saw it in the Middle East. We've now seen this here. We've seen it smaller scale with them just attacking. I mean, dude, think about this. Not only are our aircraft, right, but your pilots getting to work, if they find out who, what, when, where. I mean, this is I I don't know how you stop this. Like once the Pandora's box is open, like I don't know now what you do. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. Gonky, what do you think? Or Casmo, sorry, you seem to be talking, so I apologize.
Oh, it's fine. I mean, it's been open though. Like I said this 10 years ago when I worked at the FAA. So when I worked at the FAA as an interagency guy, is when the dude flew the gyrocopter from like Pennsylvania and landed on the Congress, like the lawn of the White House or whatever. And you come to find out like nobody saw him because nobody was looking for him because of the way radar works at ATC and stuff. And then even at that time, again, this was 10 years ago, the FAA was big, like worried about drones and stuff. And their big worry was like, well, if we put up a TFR, how does Farmer John, who's using a drone to check his fence line, know that he's in a TFR and things like that? They've sort of solved that problem with technology. But I remember saying like, well, what's to prevent some dude from like parking 30 micro drones on the approach end of the runway and just chewing up an airliner or something? So honestly, I'm surprised it's taken this long for something like this to happen. And the interesting part, of course, is as you've talked about, is the depth at which they did it. But everybody's screwed because unless things have dramatically changed in like the 3 years since I left the military, like every base is wide open. Like there's no like people think the military, everybody's walking around with weapons and all this stuff. Like everybody's ready to go. It's like going to work at IBM. Like, you just go to work. Well, no one has weapons and no one's securing anything.
It's funny you say that because if we listen to the audio of that one video with the guy saying the words that I used anyway, you can hear them popping off rounds at the drones unsuccessfully.
Yeah, they were throwing rocks and yeah.
I mean, they were trying and nothing. I mean, dude, you got to be an excellent marksman.
Right. And it's swarm tactics. Like that's the thing too. Right. Like, so what? You shot down 2 of them. Well, there's 8 more, or whatever. So
right, and conventional radar, I mean, number 1, small radar cross section. 2, they're already there. There's no early warning. Yeah, it's not like double-digit SAMs are going to be taking these things out because you're inside of. I mean, dude,
you're inside the OODA loop.
Yeah, you're already in a bad position. And one of the things that was interesting, that was one of the articles we brought up, and I think there was a treaty. The reason bombers are out in the open is there's a treaty between the nuclear powers so that we can see them on the satellite, right? We know, they know, all that stuff. Well, we just, now what, right? I mean, dude, that...
Not only that, it's impractical. Like, think about how many bombers we have, how many bombers they have. Like, it's impractical to have hangars for all that. Like, it's just not, I don't think it's practical. But yeah, no, this is huge. And then and it was kind of alluded to in the comments as well. And this is what I thought about earlier is like, okay, cool. What's the response going to be? Because as you said in the beginning, like part of the nuclear triad, well, how would you react if part of your 3-legged dog just got knocked out? Like, I think this is cool, like at a tactical level, like, oh, this is awesome. Strategically, like foreign policy relations, like it scares the crap out of me.
Right as they're talking, negotiations for peace talks, like the day prior to, hey, we're supposed to be doing peace talks. And that means planned it. 18 months ago, they knew about this. So when they're in the Oval Office and, everybody's saber rattling and, oh, we're going to walk away and stuff, they knew about it the entire time. This wasn't surprise to anyone.
I imagine it's something that they could turn off pretty easily. I mean, you just flip the switch. I guess, I don't know, but no, it's fascinating to think about how much work and effort has gone into this. So,
Gonky?
Yeah, I mean, Mover, you kind of touched on it, like the various levels that you can use this technology, and the tactics are. It gets really scary and crazy when you start thinking about it. We mentioned it before, when we were talking about defending military bases. I mean, whose job is that?
Security forces,
right? But I mean, what if it's? I mean.
They're the best defenders.
It is, but are they properly equipped? And that's the question that has to be answered. Is like your every base has got to be covered with jammers, right? And like anything else, you create something, then you counter it. So how long before they've got jam? Like we said, the fiber optic stuff. I mean, how do you jam that?
Well, and not only that, but you're sending out trons. Like if you're EMP or jammers, now you're affecting your own GPS. You're affecting your own ability to land in bad weather or night or bad conditions that are not day VFR, you're affecting all the infrastructure. You think the internet's bad now on a military base. Just wait till, your cell phone doesn't work and the jammers, the phones are down because,
the average person in the military, and I was one of these people until I went to a briefing. It was a couple years before I got out, and they kind of talked about GPS jamming. And I won't go deep, obviously, but the takeaway was I did not realize how much stuff just in a normal, what we call an MTOE. I don't know what it's called, the Air Force or Navy or whatever, but basically what a unit has to, equipment wise, how much of that is affected by GPS, things that you wouldn't even imagine. Right. And so we're getting into that, right? Like all this EW stuff, the drone stuff, there's going to be huge impacts to how people operate. And I don't think the average person really thinks about that or understands it. But you're right. Well, you start radiating all out through the base. There's going to be second and third order effects.
Well, it's not just military either. I mean,
right.
We've talked about the tragedy at DCA. There's not a single aircraft at DCA that's in a hardened shelter.
Right.
A non-state actor or nefarious actors or someone that wants to do harm now has a blueprint to go, I just have to drive this truck, a cargo container. I mean, you're right by the water there, something with a boat, with containers, pop off, handful of drones.
And if we've learned anything from the movie True Lies, it's going to come in through Key West. There's no borders. There's no
Harrier.
checkpoints.
We don't have the Harrier. That's probably why Fat Amy had the VTOL version, because we knew that would possibly happen, and we needed to be
right
sure.
Up through the taint of America, right? Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing.
Yeah, I don't know that. Casmo, I mean, I think you nailed it with what happens now with regards to the Ukraine, Russia peace talks, if there is any peace. I don't know, man. That's a very commendable tactic and offensive attack that they did, as far as just from a tactical standpoint. But man, I don't know if that's the best thing for ending trying to end a war.
Guarantee you there's some nerds in the Pentagon having a pizza party right now trying to figure this out.
Oh, dude. I think there's a lot of little small groups.
It's not the good kind of pizza party where you earned it.
No,
this is they can't go home.
This is a big reward.
There's a lot of small groups right now, I'm sure, over there that are having
think tanks are thinking harder than they've ever thunk before.
Just staring.
Yeah. There's no more fingernails.
Gonky, we need to start our roofing business, because I think hardened shelters are us.
I don't, but the thing is, man, is as drone technology gets better, I mean, drones are going to get smaller and harder. It's just
they're going to have little hands open doors to the hangar, right? It's out of control.
I mean, there'll be micro drones one of these days. They'll just go right.
There's already micro drones.
But I mean, even smaller,
even microer than micro.
Even microer, bro.
Mini micro machines as drones.
They're gonna have the micro machine guy.
but I'm just saying,
hey, Department of Defense.
Dude, we are I mean, your analogy of Pearl Harbor is, it's that was the breaking point for carrier aviation tactics and we're at that point now, and it's where it can go from here based on just thinking about what just happened. That is wild.
And dumb people don't understand, I guess, context or nuance as usual. And they're like, it's not 9/11 or Pearl Harbor because the Russians are bad. And it's like, dude, think of this tactically and strategically. 9/11 created the Patriot Act. 9/11 destroyed commercial aviation for, just
all intents and purposes.
Pretty much.
Yes.
9/11 was an unforeseen, well, depending on what book you read, but in general, it was something we hadn't thought of that happened. And then we tried to harden a bunch of other things, and that gave us the TSA, and then created the 20-year wars and all that stuff. Pearl Harbor, World War II already existed, and that was unheard. We never thought that they were going to go sink our boats in the harbor. And like you talked about, carrier aviation, the war in the Pacific, Germany then declares war. We, become very much a part of World War II. You know how it ends. This, I think, is the same thing where it's a previously unthought of tactic, a previously unexpected, target, and they were caught unprepared, and this happened. Just like Mossad with the beepers. that's another
Right.
great example more recently where people are like, beepers, really? We blew up a whole bunch of terrorists. That one's on a different level, but this is two countries at war, one of whom is nuclear capable, and it doesn't benefit anyone to keep dragging this out.
Yeah, I'm sad. It's amazing to see. But it's sad, like you just said, man. I don't want to see just more senseless killing.
No. And the numbers, so I'll caveat too, all the numbers that we've talked about, 40, however many, it's all subject to change. The immediate reporting of all the effects are obviously unreliable initially. It could be whether it's 10, 45, they still did it. And the psychological effects are still going to be, regardless.
That's the real win.
Right.
Like,
that's
so
the we
what,
can touch you in your.
Unless you've killed all the bombers,
Yeah.
so what? But the psychological impact, because as we've just talked about, all the churn that's going to come from this, because nobody's just like, oh, well, that was random. That'll probably never happen again. Just leave everything parked the way it is, right?
Like 2 hours ago, they just launched a bunch of other drones into Russia. Now they're just they're hammering it. They're going, okay, you know what? Yeah.
Well, yeah. And I don't know if we're going to talk about it, but when we talk about this Ukraine drone stuff, I mean, have you guys seen the videos of the drones chasing people and blowing up like that? Like guy, that, right?
You've seen the one with the one guy where he's just sitting there and the drone, I mean,
it's like poking him and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not a violation of the Geneva Convention because he's not surrendered. He's not doing anything. Yeah. But it's a horrific video to watch because it's this dude that's just there and
he's just done.
Yeah. Now there was somebody
chasing the dudes around the car. Yeah.
There was somebody posted that video, the Russians had propped up a dead guy, like Weekend at Bernie style. So I don't know, dude, you hear somebody.
He was not responsive, so it's possible.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Regardless, though, you're right. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Pilots, we sleep at home. We don't sleep in barracks. We drive to work. I mean, I talked about this before. I think Elon was wrong when he says drone swarm's going to take out an F-35. Traditionally speaking, I don't see that. Airborne, but on the ground, dude. Right. I mean, if you keep somebody from ever taking off, right, that is a kill. That is the
lightning is a terrible weapon on the ground.
Yeah,
it's basically it's defenseless.
It can't do the Hades bomb. It can't do any of the stuff that Doug Masters could do in an F-16.